Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel and to our usual Doctor Who episode reviews, which we apologise for taking a week break last time. Last week we were just surprisingly busy on that week, and it just didn't fit in. And when we thought we were going to do it, we were furiously hungover. So we
It's
felt
true.
it wouldn't be the right time.
Oh yes, I remember now.
But we are back this week with another Doctor Who episode review. If you've not seen these before, myself and Liam go through Doctor Who episodes, surprise, surprise, from 2005 onwards, so that when it was revived, so to speak. We've watched so many episodes, so many that we're now almost at the end of series 6. We're 2 episodes off the finale. We're on episode 11, The God Complex. And boy, this episode is certainly continuing our run of, hey, that was pretty good, actually. That was better than I thought it would be, at least for me.
Yeah.
I assume it's the same for you.
It is.
I quite enjoyed this one. It's been a while since I'd seen it. To give the lowdown of the plot, Amy, Rory, and the Doctor arrive on this weird, strange hotel. They're into a group of survivors who are being hunted by this weird beast through the corridors of this hotel, and they've got to figure out why it's chasing them and how to stop it. So, you kind of bog standard monster of the week type thing, which is fine. Doctor Who is good when it does that most of the time. There are some examples when it's not. Looking at you, fear her. But I'd say for me personally, this is a good episode, quite a good episode, and I had a lot of fun with it. What did you think?
I concur. I really, really enjoyed it. I remember always liking it when it aired, and in the interim years since, the many, many years since. And yeah, I really enjoyed revisiting around this time around as well. Lots to kind of enjoy, lots that I'd forgotten, but was pleasantly surprised by. And yeah, it's always nice when my dream isn't shattered, when I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this in a while, but I've always liked it. Is this going to be a 42? Is it not? And thankfully, it was more well, I've always just liked it anyway. It's not like I didn't like it and then I like it now, like, Doctor's Daughter or Vampires of Venice or something. But yeah, this is another really good continuation of a great run, I think, so far. Series 6 Part 2 is really surprising me, actually. It's just how much I'm liking it. I've always enjoyed it, but yeah, there's some really great stuff in Series 6 as a whole. But yeah, we're on the run, and I really, really enjoyed this one for many reasons, which we will get into imminently. But yeah, another fantastic one, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. I think it's definitely taken me by surprise because it's been a while since I've watched Series 6 the whole way through. And if you think about how the first half sort of started with some of the episodes in the first half, I wouldn't necessarily say it was the strongest start. But the way it's sort of gone through into the second half, I think, has been definitely better overall. Bar the standout, bar your favorite episode in series in the first half, bar that one.
The opening two-parter as well. They do start off.
Yes.
They start with a bang,
yeah.
and I feel like
and then it sort of
we've
goes,
gotten back to those levels.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes, I think that's definitely fair. So yeah, as per usual, we do normally around 3 positives and 3 negatives, there or thereabouts. We normally have some extras, which I do. More extra positives than negatives, but
yeah.
And again, negatives often tend to be nitpicks, which I think some of mine are again this week.
Mine are as well.
That's fine. What is your first positive?
The setting / the concept.
The concept is my second one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things like, oh, why did they not do that before? Why has that not been a thing? It's like, it feels like the obvious thing to do. Kind of like a hotel full of horrors and fears and stuff. And yeah, I think they do a great job kind of introducing that. And I really liked the pre-credit sequence, and I'd forgotten kind of how it entailed, apart from like, the gorilla, which even then wasn't as bad as I remember it being.
I always thought the gorilla was supposed to be a man in a costume.
Yeah,
Like I always thought that was the fear, but upon watching, I'm like, no, it's supposed to be a real gorilla. I was like,
I think it's
oh dear.
but it's from a
But
book, so I'm guessing it's just like
yeah,
her
but then you
vision
see the
of a
drawing, and the drawing's definitely scarier than
yeah.
the monkey man, the
It,
man in the costume. But
well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because we're all scared by different things, and some people
yeah,
are
and
scared by things you think,
I
what are you on about?
yeah, yeah, I mean, it's not a
It might
negative
just
one.
be
They could
like
have, yeah,
gorillas in general, and then it's just like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Either
or they could
way,
have
they
said it was a
probably
fear.
should have just
Either
picked
way,
something else, but it
yes,
definitely wasn't as
yeah,
bad as I remembered. But
no, yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
that introduction of that concept with Lucy Miller at the start, and how she kind of ties back into things a bit later on when they find her note and everything. All of that is just a really cool kind of conception to bring about, and the pictures, all the frames that they find at the start, all the different fears. I think that's a cool way of kind of hinting at what's going on, and then actually seeing like the clown and the PE teacher. I like there's come some like light-hearted fears almost, and some of them are played for jokes, even though that is terrifying to a lot of people. Howie's fear of a room full of girls taking the piss out of him, mood.
Yeah.
Relatable. We love the relatable king. And then they have like the more obvious ones, like the Weeping Angels and stuff like that, and
like
they get quite deep with it. A child, or waiting and being abandoned. All those fun concepts. So I like that they kind of fully explore like just things that look scary in themselves and are intimidating, those kind of fears that people have, but also some more kind of psychological ones or deeply personal
well, it's
ones, like Amy's.
There's the one on the picture frame where it's like scared of Plymouth. It's like, yeah, this is fair enough.
Yeah.
Plymouth is scary,
And
So
I recognized
fine
the guy
line.
in the picture from that one.
Oh no.
Who was scared of Plymouth. And it's a fun fact. But I was like,
Oh,
you
interesting.
work on
Okay.
Doctor Who, so stay tuned, folks.
Nice. I'll watch.
Because I'm a big nerd. It wasn't even it's how much of a nerd I am. It wasn't even on the Doctor Who wiki page. I was like, this is this person, and yet I recognized who it was. Because that's
terrible.
That's where I'm at. But anyway, I feel like they fully explore like the range that they could do with like what fears mean to people, what they are, and the fact that it's literally Doctor Who running down corridors, the episode, as it can often be the case. But I think the concept in itself it makes sense that it would be that, and I think again Nick Horan's directing again this week as he did in the last episode, and I think he makes great use of different angles and stuff to try and make the hotel feel as wacky and crazy and bigger than it actually is, because it's just a corridor and a staircase set basically, but it doesn't feel like that. And I just think it's a really cool idea. I like the Doctor Who twist on it, putting a Minotaur in a maze. Is the Doctor Who spin on that. I think is really clever, and a really neat way of exploring some of the characters' psychologies, be it our cast that we're used to and also the guest cast as well. With the exception of Rory, obviously, because he just wants to get out of there. Again, mood, relatable king. But it was all very well and good, and I really liked the idea, and I think they executed it very well.
Yeah, I can't really add much more. I thought it was very unique. Sure, we have things where fears are laid out in the episodes before, but to be an episode centered around so many, the villain is more it's not even the Minotaur isn't the villain in this. It's kind of yourself. You're the reason why you're gonna die. It's yourself. And even in the twist when it's not fears, it's sort of what you believe in and how that plays into it. I think it's a really good one, and one that you can't really repeat once it's been done. So I'm very glad that this was a one shot and they did it successfully, rather than sort of bottling it and being unable to use the concept again. I think
it's a set of TARDIS.
I mean, you could. I think for that one, at least you could do it again, because it's kind of the TARDIS. There's always different TARDIS designs, and there's always
but you can never do it again for the first time and be like, why have they not done this before?
Yeah, and you can never call it Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, which but we'll come on to that next season. It's fine.
Maybe we'll love it.
I mean,
maybe I'll love those three brother idiots this time around. Who knows?
Oh, maybe we will. God's sake. Maybe I won't notice the shit plastic bit of wall that falls on Clara. That's just polystyrene. That's what I was like,
good times. Good times.
Classic Doctor Who there. That's a classic Who reference. That's what it was. It was intentional. But yes, that's my second positive. I'll talk about it first. So what is your second positive?
My second is the production and like the design elements of it.
Interesting.
I thought it was together. Oh, hello.
Hello, you all right? You
Are
are
you
there?
still there?
Still there? Are you still? Yep.
My laptop's just. Oh, there we go. Okay, good.
Yeah.
My laptop just turned off for a second there. I was like, oh, I've died.
panic.
Oh no. My greatest fear. I've lost everything on my laptop. God, Doctor Who's getting too real. But anyway, the production and design, I was thinking I have to just spitball that entire thing just to lose all my positives and negatives. But there we go. Fun facts. Yes, I have them. They exist. But yeah, I thought, just some like the little details in how the hotel set was put together, like the fact that there were already like scrapes on the ceiling throughout the entire episode, because obviously, of course, the Minotaur's been doing this for years and years and years. So I really like that idea. It's a cool bit of detail. Like, oh, that should already be destroyed, rather than like let's destroy it now.
Don't they kind of like explain it at the end where it's like set, it's stuck, so it can't reset each time?
Yeah.
During the episode, I was like, why doesn't it reset the stuff? Why is there note still there? But it mentions that.
Yeah, they mentioned that there's the program develops a fault or something like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's all very well and good. Obviously, I think the Minotaur looks fantastic. I love the design of it. And Spencer Wilding, I believe, is the name of the guy in the suit. And I think he does a great job of kind of embodying that. When it's just like beasting it down the corridor and just running it, like, damn, son. I think that just looks so cool. I love that he brings like the animalistic nature to it, but then you kind of see later on that it's actually quite an intelligent being as well. It just wants it all to end and stuff like that. I like that a lot. And the dolls, fuck those dolls. They look really cool. I love the design of them, how they're all brought to life. I just love the image of all these people just lying on the floor under these tables, like making them move up and down. Hilarious, but I think again, very creepy if you don't like those kind of dolls, which I certainly don't. There's an episode of Buffy about one, and fuck that doll. So yeah, that all looks fantastic as well. And obviously the direction I've already talked about. Nick Curran's one of my favorite Doctor Who directors, and I think he nails it again this week. Very similar kind of claustrophobic feels, I guess, like the last episode, but in a very different way. And I think he does a great job of that again. And just little things like we have the shot of young Amy looking out the window waiting for the Doctor is like her biggest fear. And the Doctor has to save her from that. And in doing so, we have another shot at the end. The last time we see Amy in this episode, she's looking out the window, wondering where the Doctor could be. I just really like that kind of the cyclical nature of that, and all of that. It's very well done. But yeah, I just think, considering this is kind of one of the cheap episodes of Series 6, I think they do a really great job with bringing it all to life. And it just, I like that they established very early on, like, oh, this isn't Earth, it's a fake hotel. And yet, the Doctor's like, God, look, the craftsmanship on this is so authentic and everything. I think it really is, and I like that. I guess they're confident enough to keep that line in when they kind of produce a really nice hotel setting, and it definitely feels like a place you could just book a room in. But then they also have the Doctor Who twists to it, which I really love, and everything about the production and the design of all the creatures and the actual props that they've made, the costuming is all really, really great. And the episode was great to kind of watch, not just because of like the plot and the characters and everything like that, but just visually, I thought it was a brilliant piece of production.
Yeah, it's good to look at as well as watch. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
My first positive / second positive kind of links into yours as well, but it's more just the Minotaur in general. The way it looks, I think, is excellent. You could tell that's where the budget for this episode went.
Yeah.
Definitely into the Minotaur. And I definitely appreciate that, because it's not the kind of villain that you could half-ass and you could like, oh yeah, we'll just only make their head, and then we'll they could have easily done the Vincent and the Doctor route of having it sort of be a CGI beast, and I'm glad they sort of learned the lesson from that one and went, now we'll do it practical this time, because I think it definitely works better. And not only that, but sort of the way that it's presented throughout and how you don't really see it until it's the Doctor's confronted it. So you kind of finally get the full picture as soon as he's got the full picture. I appreciated that as well, and the way it's sort of shot in the mirrors and sort of the shadows that are creaking about. And then once you do know what it is, the way you sort of see it in action as well. Even if it's still from a distance, you like see it coming around the corner and you see it bombing it down the corridor. And you're like, oh, okay, guy,
Yeah.
let's stop right there.
Yeah, that's a great bit of direction as well. When you kind of see it walking into the corridor in the background, it's like you can't quite see like the silhouette, but you can hear it, it's there and everything.
Even
and they
in
do the same thing again, but then
yeah.
it's revealed to be Gibbous, and he's like, "You overpowered me." I'm like, "Oh,
yeah."
Nick Barron, man.
And they do the same thing with Rory and the mop. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
hang on a minute. And they do the same thing, but on the CCTV as well, where you can like see it poking around the corner in some of the cameras. Like, oh, it's coming for you. So yeah, I really like the design. I like the sort of the idea of it and the sort of the Doctor Who explanation for that Greek mythology. It is Greek, isn't it?
I believe so. Yeah.
Sort of the explanation that hey, the Minotaur was a real thing. It was just an alien. It wasn't some kind of mismatched bull that was put in a ring. You know, it was a real thing that was here, and we defeated it because we were smart or whatever like that. So I like the sort of the mythos around it and how it all links together and how it links to Earth, and just everything about it I think is great. And again, it's another one that you can't really you can have another Minotaur story with that same species, but I don't think it would do as it wouldn't hit as well as it did the first time round.
They even mention it's like the cousin of the Nimon, which is in a Fourth Doctor story. So I like that kind of continuity as well.
It's like the Ood and the whatever the Sensorites. Yeah. And the Sense Sphere. Ridiculous name. But yeah, so what is your final main positive?
My final main positive is the supporting cast.
Same! Oh my god.
Oh my god. That I think that's my biggest surprise. Just how much I enjoyed them. I remember always liking Rita, and I always thought Gibbous was quite fun.
Hello. Sorry, there appeared to be some kind of technical issue there where the call just dropped out. So no idea what that was.
We also divert the fault.
We clearly, but luckily, I think the first half of this call has saved in the chat, so we should be okay. So we are just going to carry on from our third positive of supporting characters, and if it turns out that the first half didn't save, then you won't get an episode this weekend.
This could be a lost episode,
and hopefully you'll be seeing this. But yes, supporting characters. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Yes, what was I saying? But yeah, I think this is like my biggest pleasant surprise of just how much I enjoyed all of them. So I did have my standouts, but yeah, I thought David Walliams was really good in this.
Yes,
I really liked him. Good old Gibbous. And the concept of like his character being from Tivoli, and they just they're happy to be conquered now, and that's why they've lasted as long as they have. But he also has a very sinister side to him, and the Doctor kind of sees through that. And he's like
the disgust from the Doctor in like he just hates the fact that they're still alive.
He's like they're sly. And like, that's why you're still alive. And then he has those few moments like, oh, that means your room's still out there, Amy. And he's very kind of
it looks her up and down
in that
like,
way. Yeah. Listen. And I like that edge to him as well. I like that he does survive the episode, and that's kind of a big thing.
It hit me as he was very much like the guy from Voyage of the Damned, Rickson Slade. Yeah, it was very much him.
Yeah,
the same.
Why did you live?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're David Walliams, probably.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, I really like the concept of like that his race and the design of him as well, to make him like a mole and everything. Is a cool kind of character anyway. And obviously they bring that alien race back in Series 9, which is very exciting. But yeah, I really liked his performance. I thought he was fantastic in it. I like the kind of layers to him. And that's not just as he appears, there is that kind of slide.
He's not just there as the comedic actor that he could have been in this episode.
Yeah.
He could have easily been the comic relief, and then that be it. But he's not.
Yeah, but there's actually a lot of meat to the bones of his character as well, which I really enjoyed. And yeah, I thought the guy who played Howie did a really good job. The guy who played Joe, considering we kind of only see Joe when he's cuckoo crazy. I think he gets some fun moments as well. And I like his role was kind of just there to set the luck thing and everything, and the Doctor's realization with the fact that he was a gambler and everything with that. Rita's obviously one of those companions that could have been, but of course, if they're a companion that could have been, that means they're going to die. And I really enjoyed her. I thought her and Matt Smith worked really well together in particular. But I also liked her little moments with Amy when talking to the clown. I don't talk to the clown. So it's one of those things where I think the supporting cast just blends with the main cast really well. I think Rory and Howie had some great moments together. So all of it kind of blends brilliantly. And I really liked Rita a lot as well. And very sad how things play out with her. But of course, it's a companion who would have been, and we already have 2 companions around. It ain't happening. So yeah, I really enjoyed all of them. I don't think there really was a weak link amongst them in terms of like characters I enjoyed, or like, oh, they could have done without them. Get rid of them, and then this. I wouldn't have cut any of them out. And I think they all had their different roles to play, and I think they did them really effectively. So yeah, a pleasant surprise at just how much I enjoyed them. Again, I'd had my few that I remember enjoying, but I felt all of them and all the actors portraying them did a brilliant job in this one. So big shout out to the supporting cast.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it also helped that they were getting killed off as it went, so they never sort of overstayed their welcome.
Definitely.
I think that was fair enough. I think you could argue that. I don't think you could argue any of them were sort of underdeveloped. Obviously, they're all still pretty surface level characters because they're supporting characters, but there's none that you just appear and you know their name and they die. You at least know something about them.
The very nature of the episode means we have to learn something about them because of find out what their fear is. Which is cool.
Yeah, exactly. And I think David Williams was a surprise for me. I always thought, oh, he's going to be, a bit cringe, a bit whatever, but there is that sort of sinister aspect to him and the character, which I think he plays very well. And I think it's done very well. And hey,
that is.
And he does it so well. He could come back. He is still out there. He is still living.
He's in the 60th, I imagine.
Oh, could you imagine if that was the case?
Neil Patrick Harris is
David Williams. Oh yeah. But yeah, I really like him. I think Rita's death, I think, was especially hard to watch. I think that's the one that you think, yeah, she's gonna survive. Very similar to, again, Voyage to the Damned with Kylie Minogue, where she'll be fine, and then dies. And I think the fact that you sort of care for these characters, care for at least 2 of them with Howie and Rita, it sort of says a lot to not just the characters but the actors portraying them to make them seem human. I mean, Howie's obviously got the sort of shyness and the sort of relatability of being someone that's nervous and not necessarily good in social situations. Rita's obviously a nurse, so that automatically sort of gives people a sort of a sense of respect and sort of want for them to do well. And then you see the sort of pressure in her room from her dad, and that sort of informs that. And then again, everyone can relate. So the fact that they're relatable makes them even more sort of you wanting them to survive. And that's also why you sort of look at David Williams' character and you're like, oh, you're a little bitch, aren't you? You're the worst person, because what he says is true. He's like, oh, he in his mind he doesn't necessarily feel the guilt because it's a win-win situation, but although they never outright say that he killed Howie, everyone knows that it was him that caused the situation. And I think they've all played their part very well. And it is very good, very well done, and that's what you can do with a small cast. It was sort of the same last week as well. With a small cast, you can do a lot, and hopefully it will be the same next week with another small cast of what. Four adults and a baby, maybe. I think that's about it, isn't it?
That's the name of the film, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So any additional positives? What have you got?
I think I do. Oh, when the Minotaur bursts into Amy's room and Rory's like, "Oh!" Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Comedy gold. I fucking love that. So I thought I remember that happening at some point in the episode. And I thought maybe it was when he's behind the door with the broom and then the Minotaur walks out. And I was like, when it didn't happen, I was like, oh, did I just completely forget that? But then it happened. Oh, amazing. I liked the Weeping Angel cameo. I thought was cleverly woven in because it easily could have been Amy's room, and kind of knowing where Amy ultimately exits the show. It's quite fun as well.
Yes, there's 2 references to that this episode as well, isn't there? But also it's, why of all the people to have necessarily conquered the planet, why is that David Williams's biggest fear? Is that because they are similar to the Minotaur? They don't go there to conquer. They just go there and they eat you, basically. I don't know, but I think it's interesting
history there for the Target novelization.
It will come.
Maybe they're the current invaders or something, or
maybe,
or they're on their way or something. I don't know. So I like that. Kind of the unknown of that. I think it's quite cool as well. And it's just little moments really, rather than proper the additional things. But when Rita's trying to, well, I like the scene where Rita and the Doctor are talking about, you know, her beliefs and that she thinks this might be hell and that she's not afraid of that or anything. And, you know, he unknowingly kills her by being like, it's not hell, it's fine. You know, find some peace with that. And she's kind of just trying to talk to him. And he's just there gurgling the tea. And he's like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That little moment, there's, you know, this episode can be quite like, oh God, like my feels. But they also have like moments of like heartiness and comedy, and they're not all from David Walliams, which I think is a nice choice as well. You know, they really don't lean into the comedy side as much with him, and just make him this whole funny person. Because there's, you know, there's some really great moments from everyone that I really enjoyed. So yeah, a few little things like that I think just adds to the fun of the episode.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Sort of my additional ones is just the majority of the direction of this episode and how it's put together. I've got a couple of issues with some of the shots, which we'll come on to later on, but I think most of this is great. You know, the way it's shot with the Minotaur and the mirrors, as we mentioned, and all the other stuff around it, all the way it's sort of framed, especially when Rita's like on the floor and there's just this vast space sort of behind her, I think is very well done. I think the music was used quite well in this one. There's some nice musical moments in there, and especially I think the standout one is with Joe at the start, where he's like being quite sinister, but it's like quite upbeat and jaunty music, and it kind of adds to that unease of why is this playing happy music when he's being like, ha, you're all gonna die, and it kind of sort of adds to the sort
when
of,
the Doctor's trying to find Joe in the hotel, and it's like it's like hotel music, and I think that's quite unsettling.
Yeah. It is, and then also Matt Smith as well. I think he's obviously great in this one. It's I wrote him especially because of that sort of the interactions he had with David Walliams, with, you know, talking about his race in the dining room, and then even when David Walliams like sidles out from the corridor and he's like, oh, he overpowered me, just the look on his face is like, nah, I know that.
I know what you're about, you dick.
Yeah, and I think he does a very good job of you know, not necessarily you know, doing the stuff that isn't acting, so to speak. You know, he doesn't have to give a speech or give some threatening words or some, you know, kind words for him to be the standout. He can just give you the look, and it's like, yeah, that's you know, that's why you're the main character of this show, because you can do that. And yeah, I think he's great, obviously. Negatives for the episode, a lot of mine are nitpicks.
So mine.
What's your first?
The coincidences of them happening to stumble into the right rooms. There's a few instances, and I'm like, it's probably also the hotel itself is obviously it wants you to find your room, so it's going to draw you into them at some point. But the one main one I think is the fact that they just so happen to stumble into Amy's room right at the end, just when they're like, oh, now I can solve this because I can.
I wonder if my headcanon would be that the Minotaur has some sway in what the hotel does, and because he wants it to end, he kind of has a sway in that being Amy's room, or maybe he directs them that way by chasing them or something like that. That's what I would, you know, put it down to. But yeah, there's no explanation.
And it's also a 45-minute episode, so they kind of just get to it. So, you know, it's not a huge bother, but, you know, particularly when it was like the climax of the episode and the resolution to things, you know, when they're just stumbling along and Amy's all distracted and stuff, and they still somehow
Amy's ready to bang the Minotaur.
Well, you know, Beauty and the Beast.
Literally.
So yeah, it's one of those things, but it was particularly because like that was like, oh, the perfect time for you to find that room. That worked out well, didn't it? It's just like, okay, fine.
Yeah, I think that's fair. My first one, like I said, they're all nitpicks, but the use of that horror sound effects, like that high pitch, like ring type thing. Right. You know, when it's like it's supposed to be a jump scare, it happens a lot when it's a jump scare. It uses it so many times in this episode, and so many times when there's not a jump scare. I think they try and put it in to make you be like, oh yeah, this is really scary. I'm like, look, it's creepy, sure, and you know, it's psychologically scary, but the way they've used it, it's similar to in Blink when like they turn back and the angel's closer. It's that similar sound effect.
All right.
And I'm like, you don't need to have this in there. I think it took me out a little bit because it's so overused throughout the show, not just in this episode, but throughout the show, at least up to this point. And I think for me, again, it's slightly nitpicky, but it just took me out of it because I'm like, oh, it's like the Wilhelm scream. When you hear it, you're like, oh, it's that, and it's like, oh, well, now I'm, you know, it's that kind of thing. And I think it just had no place. There was no need for it. I think they did it for when, like, I think it's like the doctor was closing the door. Went, oh, really? I was like, why? Yeah, right. So I was like, you don't need it. How much input the director had on that, whether that was the editing or the sound or producers being like, oh, we need to put that in to signify it's bad or something. I don't think you need it, but again, it could be of use to younger viewers who perhaps need to have that sort of element of, oh yeah, I should be scared type thing.
If this is teaching them what horror tropes are, then,
yeah, and you know, it's fine. It's not a big thing, but it did take me out a couple of times. I was like, oh yeah, it's that again. Yeah, I'm so scared. Oh, you know, it was just a bit naff. But again, nitpicky.
That's the first positive. That's not bad. Go ahead, really.
No. Your second negative.
My second one is Amy forgetting the letter and like not even reading it when she first picked it up.
Yes.
Later on. It just that moment stuck out like a sore thumb to me. And that scene was like, it's a bit odd. I feel like they just could have done that better so that Amy wasn't like distracted until then, or didn't have the time until then. Like it's just like, there's, you know, the doctor was talking to someone, and just that shot of Amy like, oh yeah. I do like when he's like, oh, what are you like, and like hits her over the head with it and stuff. Yeah, it's a nice little moment between. But it did feel pacing wise, it was a bit weird. Like, okay, clearly, like, oh, I've run out of ideas now, and like, oh yeah, I forgot Amy had the thing. It feels like they just didn't rewrite that moment almost.
Yeah, it's as if, but, you know, it's as if all the characters stop and wait until the doctor's finished having his conversation elsewhere, and then they go, oh, yeah, and then they get involved. And maybe they could have said, you know, maybe somebody, is that after? No, it's not after they've cornered the beast, is it? But they could have like maybe had Amy like tending to someone who tripped and hit, you know, something like that, or helping Rory treat someone. You know, they could have done something that makes her be like to be busy. But yeah, I just said they sort of don't.
She just finds it because it's time for her to find it.
Yeah, basically. My second negative, again, nitpicky. The CGI ropes that fall off.
That's my third one. I was like, oh my god.
Oh, I don't know how hard. Rope? Yeah, I don't know how hard it could be. Just
do you not have time to get rope and just drop it?
Because he had the rope on him to start with, so they've specifically CGI'd that in. And I'm like, why don't you just go and loosen it? You know, there's no need to.
I wonder if they had to like reshoot it and then they just didn't have ropes that day. Or
maybe,
something.
Yeah.
Like, it's so bizarre. It really does stand out.
Because it's like it's that plasticky CGI as well. It's not even like the good CGI where it's got some texture to it. It's just so smooth, and I'm like,
like
it stands out. And again, you know, if they had to sacrifice the budget for the Minotaur, fair enough. Maybe they use their CGI budget on the room dissolving at the end, which is fine overall. Or the nice little fancy planets and galaxies out the window, fine. But just have someone behind, just have him on his face, and just have it chest height, and just have someone hidden behind and go. Whoop, and
that's
just have it fall off and
it's a close enough shot that they could have just had someone be holding it a bit off camera and just drop it. But they did not.
I mean, maybe they forgot to shoot it and they went, oh crap. But it's probably not even Matey Boy sat down in the chair. That's probably why they've done it. Just got a man.
There's obviously some reason behind the scenes why it had to work out that way.
I would hope so anyway.
Oh my god.
The script is written CGI.
Yeah.
VFX.
This must be CGI ropes. Of all the things that must be CGI in this episode. The ropes.
Yeah. It's terrible. That's your third then, yeah.
That was my third.
That's fair enough. My sort of third one is a couple of sort of, again, I don't necessarily think it's directionals. I think it's more in the edit. When they're going through the corridors and it's like a POV shot and there's like zooming round, I'm like, oh, that's that's so early 2000s. Please stop. I know it gives the impression that, you know, it's busier, but it's just it just doesn't. It looks like the doctor's running at that speed. I'm like, stop that. And then also when Rita's like getting up and accepting her death, but it's all in slow motion. I'm like, oh,
that was weird.
You don't need that in slow motion. Just have her get up and turn around, and then have the Minotaur. Yeah, I was like, you don't need it in slow motion, especially because it cuts back to the doctor who's not in slow motion.
Yeah, I think you've already earned the emotions to that scene. You don't need to try extra hard by being like, oh, it's all slow motion and stuff. Yeah, that was weird.
They're having a real moment with slow motion, aren't they, this series? I think we talked about it last week, or last episode as well. There's some issues with slow motion when he was running down the stairs, wasn't it? And he was hugging his How good it was slow motion there, and then in series opener there was slow motion.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Saving your life.
So
No.
there must be something. I don't know what it is. Maybe they had a deal on the slow mo effects for this series.
I guess they did. Or some episodes were just like a few seconds short, and then like
yeah, maybe
slow motion. I don't know.
Maybe.
It was a thing. I think we're done with it now.
Yes.
But yeah, there's only 2 episodes left of the series.
It wouldn't surprise me if there is some in the next 2. I can imagine there being some, especially in
could picture
the finale with the silence and when they're like getting shot. I can imagine there being
yeah, maybe when the Doctor smashes through the window in the next one. Maybe is that slow motion? I can't remember.
No, I think that's just one that has loads of cuts where it cuts to smashing through the window.
Okay,
typical.
At least it was brief in this one, but
yes,
the choice was made.
Any other negatives? Any additional ones?
Not really, no. So I was watching the episode through, and I was like, I don't have any negatives yet. This is awful. And then the rope scene happened. I was like, oh, thank God. So I did struggle. I did kind of have to nitpick a bit. But it is good for the episode, really. But nothing else really stood out to me.
Fair enough. My only additional one is, again, it's a sort of nitpick because it's not a full flashback, but the flashback to when they get the letter and they find her.
Yeah.
The flashback to the cold open, I'm like, either have the cold open happen now as they're reading the note, or don't flash back to it and just have them read the note, something like that.
I was okay with it in this instance because they actually put effort in to the flashback.
Yes,
and actually,
it's not just a
laid it on
flashback.
top of what was going on. Yeah, I did like her reading it out as
and there were some additional bits into it. But I still
I think they did try, but they didn't need to show it again.
No, they could have just had them. I think it would have been better if they had. I think there's a moment just after the titles where it's like, oh, that could have been your cold open, where they find the TARDIS has gone or something like that. Have that there, and then put cold open in here where the flashback could be, but have the Doctor read it out or something like that. I don't know. Again, nitpicky, wasn't even a main negative, but I just it does feel like there's a few things in there that like, oh, we need to add the time to it. Let's actually put that there and do this. Maybe it's just the
considering this is a longer episode than normal. This was like 50 minutes.
Who knows? Maybe they knew they didn't have too much for the next time trailer, so they were like, oh, let's just do this. I don't know. Who knows? Cool. Before we give it a score, what fun facts do you have?
Fun facts. Let's have a look. Okay. God, I wrote these last week, so I've forgotten. So this is exciting. Okay. In the original script, Lucy Hayward's name was Lucy Miller. It was changed to avoid confusion with the 8th Doctor, Big Finish companion Lucy Miller, as played by Sheridan Smith. Yes.
Smithy's sister in Gavin and Stacey.
Yes, that's her most famous role.
Well, I was thinking that because Smithy's in the next episode. That's why I was making the reference.
Very good. Very good. Well done.
Thank you.
The Doctor's fear that he will have to watch his companions die or get them killed is again brought up in the episode, just like School Reunion and The Vampires of Venice. All of these episodes were also written by Toby Whithouse. He wrote this one. So I like the recurring theme with him. Yeah, he's got a theme and he's running with it. I appreciate that. This is the final episode to depict companions living full-time in the TARDIS until the beginning of Series 11, which is disgusting to think about, but it's true. I was thinking about it.
Because obviously Clara's a babysitter. She goes back, doesn't she?
Clara goes back and forth and gets picked up. Yeah. Bill still goes to the university and works there. And she had knock where she's moving in with people. And So I didn't even think about that. So,
God, you're right. I guess maybe Nardole lives with the Doctor. You could argue that. And he's a full-time companion for
or Doctor.
Well, he until they go to the university, I'd say he's probably living there, isn't he?
Maybe.
I suppose there's only one Christmas special between meeting Nardole and then.
But if he does, it's not depicted, so it still counts.
No, maybe that's it. Yeah. Nah.
God, Nardole. Yeah. Anyway,
the other, David Williams' best friend.
Yes,
Lucas, there you go.
Yeah,
it's all together. It's all a big conspiracy. I'm there pinpointing it.
Yeah, it all comes back to Doctor Who at some point.
It really does. Yeah.
Speaking of, one of the pictures the Doctor, Amy, and Rory find at the start is Royston Luke Gold, whose fear was Plymouth. That's fun. The person in this photo is producer Marcus Wilson. which I thought was a nice little
Ah.
thing. That's like, I know that face, I know that guy. And I was like, oh, I'm a nerd,
He's
because
been-
even TARDIS Wiki didn't have this on there.
He's been the producer since it started, hasn't he? Isn't he still the producer?
I don't know.
I'm sure there's at least one or two that have stayed on since like 2005.
Yeah, maybe. He's
I might
definitely been
be
around for a
wrong.
while.
But yeah, he's definitely been there. He was definitely there at the start, and he was obviously there during Series 6. But yeah.
I guess we'll see. I need to check the credits in future.
Yeah.
David Walliams was offered to take part via an email and agreed, as he was a fan of the show and had previously appeared in a Fifth Doctor audio on Big Finish, which I didn't know.
God, there you go.
His makeup took 2 hours to apply every day.
Oh, that's not as long as I thought it would be. To be fair,
That's terrible. No, it wasn't too bad.
It's not quite Grinch levels.
No. Oh, Jim. The idea of the Doctor forcing his companion to lose their faith in him was also established in the classic serial The Curse of Fenric, where the Seventh Doctor makes Ace lose her faith in him to allow the Ancient One to defeat Fenric. I haven't seen The Curse of Fenric, so I don't know exactly how it all plays out, but
You fake fan.
Big fan. Yeah, how much Classic Who have you seen, Connor? Let me know.
Enough.
You enjoy it, don't you?
I've seen enough of Classic.
Fake fan. You must enjoy everything. All of it.
I must enjoy all of them, including the racist episodes.
You must simply enjoy all of Doctor Who's racism in its classic years.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, the Doctor refers to the Minotaur as a distant cousin of the Nimon, who appear in the Fourth Doctor story, The Horns of Nimon. Famously good story. But yeah, I like that concept.
I remember their battles in Time card, and that's about it.
Yep, they have a design. That is a design. In the 11th hour, the Doctor tells Amy that understanding he's definitely a madman with a box would save her life one day. The Doctor using those words in this episode to Amy do indeed save her life. So there you go. That's nice. The contents of the Doctor's room are later revealed in the Time of the Doctor. We'll get to that when we get to it. Moffat originally pitched the idea of a hotel with moving rooms to Toby Whithouse for Series 5, but ultimately decided that there were already enough episodes where the characters ran down corridors in that series, so it was pushed back to Series 6. Whithouse wrote The Vampires of Venice for Series 5 instead. Whithouse preferred writing The God Complex to episodes like School Reunion and The Vampires of Venice, as he's more used to writing darker tones, because he was the showrunner of Being Human and stuff. So
because eating a child isn't a dark tone, is it, Toby?
Not at all, no.
Not opening the episode with a child being eaten.
Yeah, he balances it out with the robot dog, I guess.
Of course, yeah.
And then finally, Spencer Wilding, who played the Minotaur in the episode, went on to play the Wooden King in The Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe, Skaldak in Cold War, and the lead Dreg in Orphan 55.
Oh, yeah!
And for some of his outside work, which I found very interesting, he was a White Walker in the pilot episode of Game of Thrones. He's the werewolf in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. And he was Darth Vader in Rogue One.
Oh, that's fun.
So there you go.
What a CV that is. Yeah.
What a catalogue of roles.
Yeah. And his best one was the Dreg in Orphan 55.
I
joke. I like those designs, and I like Orphan 55. That's one that I went back to and was like, this is actually pretty good. What's the fuss about?
Yeah, I haven't gone back to it yet.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it. For all its flaws, I liked it.
It could be memed, so I like it anyway.
Yeah, that's that probably adds a little bit to it. But what I can't remember. What is in the Doctor's room? I can't remember the scene which is revealed either.
The cracking time.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Like watching it, I was like, this was John Hurt, but
yeah, this was clearly a thing where I think they never intended to reveal what it was, but then the production team was like, fine. Fuck it, we'll reveal it. It was this. Yeah, it was the cracking time.
Yeah,
it doesn't really make sense, I don't think, but it's fine.
No, because the way he doesn't he say like who else?
He says who else, and you hear like the TARDIS close the bell in there, and I
think that's why
they should have just revealed it was John Hurt. They should have just revealed it was him. I think
they should have said that in Day of the Doctor, and then they could have retroactively been, oh look, he was there all along. Look, he was thinking about him there.
But instead, they waited a whole one more episode to reveal it was the cracking time.
Exactly, ridiculous.
It's a thing
because that implies that he knows it's the Time Lords in the crack, but he doesn't know that at the start of the time of the Doctor.
That's why it doesn't really make sense.
Well, that'll be a negative.
Or just, I guess it just kind of ties into like the silence as a whole, and he knows that that's not over.
But then put the silence in there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there simply wasn't time.
No, apparently not. Cool. I'm going to give my rating this time so that we can see if we're lining up again. Maybe not. I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
Oh my god! God's sake! I was thinking like 8.5, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to be generous because I did really, really like this one and was pleasantly surprised.
Well, when you were
by
talking, I was like, oh, he's gonna give it a 9, and we're not gonna line up. I was like, well, I'm sticking with my 8.5. Oh.
No, it wasn't quite. I don't think it was quite Girl Who Waited
No.
levels, but it was still really
Yeah. We've had a real run, haven't we, this year? All the episodes we've watched, we've matched. Maybe that'll be the same next week as we watch Closing Time.
Yes.
Another episode that I remember quite liking when it came out. And I know it's a big meme to hate on James Corden and think he's the worst person to exist and blah blah blah. And so he's there are issues around him, but I don't think there's like I don't think the hate towards him is justified enough for the level that it's at. And that's fine. I think his first episode in Doctor Who was great. I think, I mean, we'll find out, but I think I really enjoy Closing Time. Obviously the Sidemen are in it, which is great. The lady from it's not Come Fly With Me, because that's Matt Lucas and David Wyman. Come Outside.
The woman who died last year.
Was it last year?
I think so. Was it last year or the year before?
Oh, I thought it was ages ago. Anyway, she's in it. I think this is another small scale one that I'm quite looking forward to. I can't remember too much about it, except we'll see how I feel about the resolution and how love saves the day. We'll see how that one stacks up, because I'm not entirely too sure about it.
It's very much a theme with James Corden's episodes, isn't it? So I'm kind of like, it makes sense if they're tying it together like that, but also like,
I don't think it necessarily works to stop the conversion into a Cyberman.
No, I do have my hot take on that episode that Craig should have died, but we'll get.
I think there is a fair argument for that, but maybe they wanted to bring it back.
We'll talk about it next time, and maybe I will change my mind once I've seen it again.
Yes. So what do you remember of the episode and what are you expecting?
I remember Cybermen, so that's a good start. Be nice to see them again properly as like the villain, because they had a cameo in Good Man Goes to War and stuff, but prior to that, when were they last time the main villain in something? It was maybe the next Doctor?
It must be, because they weren't in series 5 except for the finale.
Yeah.
They were in Good Man Goes to War, but as a side bit at the start.
Yeah. So this is the first time they're like the main villain in ages.
Yeah, because they weren't in the last 4 episodes of David Tennant one. It must be the next Doctor then.
So that's exciting.
And even before then, it was
Army of Ghosts.
Yeah, so
they went in series 3.
No, so they've been used really sparingly up until this point, and now we're going to go Sidemen heavy from here on in, baby.
Goddamn time. They've earned it. They've earned it after such a long period of rest.
We've got them in this, haven't we? We've got them in this one, and then they're in Nightmare in Silver.
Yes.
And then they kind of have a part in Time of the Doctor, a little bit with handles and whatnot. And then they're obviously in the series. Yeah, then they're in a series finale of Capaldi's.
Yeah. Cameo in Hellbent, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the Cloisters. That's it for series 9. They're not in series 9, really.
No.
And then series 10 finale.
Of course, yes. One of the best finales.
They kill 12. So.
Yeah, literally. Which is how I wanted to go. We're about to go ham with the Sidemen and not really get that many Daleks coming up, are we? Except for Asylum of the Daleks. That's about it.
Yeah, they have a cameo in the finale of this series, but I think that's...
Of course they do, because they have to, because of the year rule. They have to have a cameo. Obviously.
Rule.
Well, we haven't been proven wrong yet.
Don't sue us. It's true. Well, we have 2016. They weren't in anything. It was just Return of Dr. Mysterio.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Unless there's a side bit.
BBC, just tell us what the deal is. It's fine if it's a thing.
It's fine if you have to. We don't care. It's fine. We just rather have an explanation, please.
We just want to know. Just tell us.
Oh.
Anyway, but yeah, I am excited to check this one out again. Obviously, I had like the Cybermats as well. They're coming back for the first time in the new series. And we obviously have that bit with River Song at the end, which I've always found really chilling and awful.
I can't remember. Yeah.
Well, stay tuned for that.
I remember the is it the bit where they're like the old people are talking about seeing the Doctor and he looked sad? I remember that, the kids.
Yes.
The kids watching him go to the TARDIS. I remember that and being like, oh, okay. Thanks, kids.
Thank you, children. But yeah, I'm looking forward to revisiting this one again. So I do think Matt Smith and James Corden bounce off each other really well, which is probably why they brought him back in the first place for an episode.
And that's probably why he was his best man at his wedding. So
yeah,
Matt Smith and James Corden.
That would also help. Yeah, Matt Smith is not yet married. But yeah, I'm very excited. Ladies, watch Morbius and hit him up. But yeah, I'm excited to see more of that. And obviously, this is kind of the Doctor getting closer and closer to his death, because it's like this is like during the
really dragging it out.
I mean, if you knew you're gonna die, I'd probably drag it out as well.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, aren't we all dragging it out?
I haven't played Tears of the Kingdom yet. Just gonna... Connor, that's very dark. Oh, you're just dragging. Let's just do it now. Let's just get it over with. We won't see you next week.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, guys, but
it's going for us all in the end. Might as well get it over with. That is not the message we are relaying to you, shouting into the void viewers. Please don't. But yes. Anyway. Oh God.
But yes.
Please don't. We are not. Don't sue us. But yeah, I'm very excited to revisit this one. Just get some Cybermen back in my life and see how it all plays out with emotions and etc. etc. We're so close to the Series 6 at last.
I know, so close to the best episode of Doctor Who of all time, the Doctor, the Wizard, and the Wardrobe.
The best Christmas special. Exciting.
I just can't wait for the Doctor to fall literally out of space and be fine, because he landed in some snow. Oh.
Well, he fell out of space in the end of time, and he didn't regenerate that until a bit later on. So
it's true. But he was a bit closer to Earth, I think, in the end of time than where he is.
That makes a difference. It's not like they both should have had the same alternative. No, he should have stood up and been Matt Smith in front of the time monster.
Sure. I'm expecting Capaldi in the Christmas special. Just like, oh, hello. No.
Capaldi's not going to show up before he regenerates into him.
No, right? That would be silly. That never happens.
That would be weird.
Oh, but yes, that will be next week, unless some Doctor Who news breaks. There has been pictures of shooting this week, where he's got his nice new costume. They're online if people want to have a little gander at them. Don't think there's anything necessarily that we need to talk about for that at the minute. We might just wait until there's bigger stuff and then do a big roundup of news, because some stuff's happened in the first 2 months of the year, but I don't think anything major. But we are closely approaching the 60th. You know, we're only 10 months away now. So
good.
We're not even 10 months. Sorry, we're 9 months. 9 months away. See, even closer. So we can have a kid.
You can get pregnant now and have the baby just in time.
Exactly.
For the 60th.
Wow. What you could call it? You could call it David Tennant. I just don't know. Don't know what you want to do. He'll grow up to be a doctor if you have a child. Yeah,
beep the meep.
Just call it meep, and then brackets the beep. That's it. Anyway, that'll be it for this week. And hopefully, unless for some reason we are massively hungover again next weekend, we will be back next weekend. Bye.
Bye.